you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome each and every one of you here tonight. Is everybody happy? Yeah. Is everybody happy? Yeah. Good. Now turn around to the person on your right and say, how are you? On your right, go on. How are you? That's it. Now turn to the person on your left and say, what are you having to drink? Go on. There was a fella from Chicago, Illinois, decided to come to Ireland, and he'd never been here before. Never here in his life. So he decides, I'm going to visit Ireland. So he arrives here, and he goes along and he rents his lovely car, you see him, from Dan Dooley. And he drives the car. He drives the car down from Dublin to Shannon. And he's on his way down towards County Clare. And as he's driving across the Curragh, now remember, this is an American who has never been here before, and he's driving across the Curragh of Kildare, which is well known for the great racing and, of course, the bloodstock and everything else. And as he drives across the Curragh, he sees in the distance what he thinks is a rocket. Now, he's never seen this before. In Ireland, he did not expect that there would be a rocket. So he parks the car and he puts it in on the side and he walks across the field towards the rocket, and the closer he gets, he realizes it actually is a rocket, and it's up on the launching pad and everything. It wasn't. It wasn't a launching pad, it was about 20 pallets, but it's up ready to go somewhere. So he gets closer to it, and as he gets closer to the rocket, you see, he's walking across, and there's two fellas standing outside the front door of the rocket. And they're surrounded by thousands and thousands. Mostly sheep. But it was better than being there on your own, you see. So they're having their photographs taken, and the American was fascinated. He walks over and said, how you doing there, guys? It's a great pleasure to be here in the Emerald Isle. My name is Bud Nell. I'm very happy to be here in Ireland, and I guess you guys are making a commercial.
What?
Is this candid camera?
No, it's not candid camera now, smarter Alec. You're looking at Irish history in the making. We are part of the Irish space program.
I said, goddamn, he said, you guys are astronauts.
What are you calling us now?
He said, you're an astronaut.
Don't be using that language with me. You're not much better yourself.
No, he says, you seem to misunderstand me, sir. Astronaut, it's, it means you're going into space.
Well, in here, we're spacers. At least I'm a spacer, and he's a space cadet.
Well, he said, it sounds pretty good, sir, and I want to say it's a great pleasure to be here in your country, sir. So what sort of instruments do you have on board?
Instrument? Well, I've an old melodeon, which I've had for a while, and Captain O'Brien has an old fiddle, which he's had.
No, sir, he says, you seem to misunderstand me. Sir, do you have any technical instruments?
Technical? Well, the melodeon would be fairly technical now, if you didn't know how to use it, like,
No, sir, he says, you seem to misunderstand me. Can you tell me, do you have any, high precision instruments, like, do you have an altimeter?
Alto what?
Altimeter, it's a precision instrument which can tell you within 1,000 of an inch what height you're up.
No, sir, we wouldn't have anything like that, no. That'd be no good to us. We have to be spot on, you see.
Well, it sounds pretty good, sir. It sounds like a very exceptional rocket. What sort of combustion are you going to use?
Come again?
Combustion, fuel.
Fuel. Well, we're being sponsored by Board Nimona. We're using turf to get her off the ground. And then when we get into the second phase, we'll be using peat briquettes. Briquettes. and they're easier to stack, and they're cleaner and that sort of thing. And then when we're going through the hole in the ozone, we're on smokeless fuel. It's a kind of a... It's a mark of respect for the hole.
Well, he said, it sounds like a pretty good trip, sir, and I want to wish you, on behalf of the people of the United States of America, I want to wish you a very safe and a happy journey on your trip to the moon.
To the what?
The moon, sir. Moon.
Moon. We're not going near the moon at all.
No way are we going near the moon.
Sure, you Americans have already been on the moon. That wouldn't be a challenge to us. And the cow jumped over it as well.
No. No. We're going to land this baby on the sun. Right slap bang in the middle of it. Up you by you. Right in the middle of the sun. Well, he says, you got to be kidding, guys. As soon as this thing lands on the sun, it's going to burn right up.
Not for us.
We're going up at night. There were 4 couples who decided to come to Ireland, and it was their very, very first trip. They'd never been here before. And they decided, rather than just do the regimental things, that they would go and do something different. Now, the ladies in the couples decided they'd go their way, and the fellas decided that they would go their way. And they decided they weren't going to rent a car, they were going to just see Ireland as it is. Let's rent a donkey, they said. So the girls went on their way, so the fellas went to rent donkeys. So they went along to Dan Dooley, rent a donkey. Now, Dan Dooley rents cars, but he also rents donkeys. And they went along, and it was the same as everywhere else. There were loads of donkeys in the compound, and they all had registration numbers on them. I won't tell you where, but they had registration numbers. And they're all lined up, and there's a workshop, and there's a sales room, and there's a reception. So the 4 guys, 4 Americans, went in. They're like, hey, well, yeah, we like you rent some donkeys, sir. Very great pleasure to be here in the Emerald Isle. I'm Frank Nell, and I have 3 friends here. Can we have 4 donkeys?
Oh, see, no problem. We'll rent 2 donkeys. No problem whatsoever.
So he gave them the 4 donkeys, and he gave them backpacks and haversacks, and they said, this is it. We're going to see Ireland as we should. So they all head off on the donkeys, and 3 of the men on the donkeys head out from the compound, and they are gaining speed. Fabulous. The last guy is going around in circles for nearly a half an hour, and the donkey's going nowhere. Very slow. So he just said, goddamn donkey, gonna take this goddamn donkey back in here. So he goes inside, and he goes into the service bay in Dan Dooley's, and all the donkeys were all lined up. Some of them were getting greased. Some of them were, they were greasing some of the donkeys, and they were adjusting some of the others and shodding some of them. And he goes into the foreman. He says, yeah, sir, can you help me? He said, I seem to have got a strange donkey here. It doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. Goddamn donkey's too slow. Oh, he come here, he says, I'll have a look at him for you now. You probably got a Monday morning donkey. Now back him in here over the pit. And right enough, there were pits and there were jacks and all sorts of things. And he backs him in and he puts him on the jack, the donkey jack. And he presses the button, the jack goes up like this, you see, and the donkey is up. And the service guy looks, he kind of draws himself in under the donkey like that.
Oh, no, I'll have a look now here. I'm just checking the undercarriage of the donkey. It's okay up the front now. I think I know what the problem is.
And this guy goes outside and he gets 2 bricks. 2 bricks. And he comes in and he gets back in under the donkey like that.
Okay, now. You stand back there for a second.
And he goes, and the donkey takes off down the road at about 100 miles an hour. And the American says, God damn, he said, that's something else. He said, how the hell am I going to catch this donkey? See, if you just like to step up on the jack. But I was down in Wexford one time, and there was an unfortunate incident took place. There was a hotel in Wexford, and there was a fire started in the basement, and the fire started to spread, and all of the occupants of the hotel were very safely evacuated from the building, except for one idiot who decides to run up the stairs onto the roof of the hotel. And he wants to have a good view of the fire below. And he's running around the roof going, oh, you good boy, oh, up you by you. And he's running around in his pajamas, and the fire crew are in the street, and there's fire engines everywhere. They're running ladders up to him, and he will not take any attention of these ladders. So they pull all the ladders back, and he's going, up you by you. Oh, good big mush. And he's running around the roof. So eventually the fire chief, you see, is wondering, how are they going to get this guy down from the roof? Now, in the meanwhile, the flames are building up, and they're heating up the roof tiles. And now this fellow on the roof is getting a different perspective. He's going, oh, dear, I'll be scorched. Oh, help, help, help. So the fire officer gets 20 strong men to hold a blanket in the middle of the street. And he's looking up and he said, come on now, come on. Jump down into the blanket. You'll be saved. He said, no way. I won't fall for that. Yous are trying to make a fool out of me. I know what'll happen. I'll jump, and you'll let the blanket go. And I'll be bursted. Leave the blanket on the ground. And then I'll jump. I worked for many, many years, ladies and gentlemen. I worked at the bar trade in Ireland as a bartender, and of course, over the years, I reckon that people who work at the bar business definitely are psychologists by the time they're finished. Because you meet so many different people coming into the bar. You get the fella who comes in with a question, the first fella in the morning. Excuse me. Yes? How high is a penguin? Penguin? A penguin's about 3'5", about this height. Oh, it must have been two nuns I drove over, so... But there's all sorts of different situations develop in pubs. You know, as I said, I worked many, many years. And Monday morning working behind a bar, as any person in the bar business will tell you, difficult. I remember being in this particular pub one morning, 9:30, I'm clearing up the floor, washing up the glasses, and I'm cleaning up all the sawdust on the floor. There was the furniture from the previous night, you see. And this guy comes in and talk about a hangover. He had a hang-around. The hair was hanging down here, the shirt, oh, you never seen that, like, shirt open, jacket hanging off, and he comes up to me and he says, are you the barman? I says, I am. Were you here last night? I says, I was. Was I here last night? I said, you were, I said, I remember you. Can you remember how much did I spend? Well, I said, you spent over £100. Well, see, thank God, I thought I lost it. But there was a guy came into the bar, and I remember one particular night, and he was rotten with drink. And he walks up to the counter, come here. You know the kind of a person, it's happened to everybody. You know the person who can't speak. He's so full of drink, he can't get the words out. But he thinks he's talking. And he can't understand how you can't understand him. It's a question of understanding. And he's going, who's this? Now, the barman looks at him and he says, I'm sorry, he said, I think you've had enough. I said, you're welcome. I'm sorry, sir, you've had enough. So the guy walks out, and he walks out the front door of the pub. He doesn't realise that the pub is on a corner. And he walks around the corner, and he goes into the next pub, which is the other bar of the same pub, which is served by the same bartender. And he goes, it's so I've told you before, get out. So he walks out, trips himself up outside, falls on the ground, stands up, and goes back around the corner again. And goes into the first bar he's been in. And he goes, and the same bartender says, get out. He says, get out now. Do you own all the pubs around here? But no matter where you go in Ireland today, you'll find that there is a Chinese takeaway. And I figure that the Chinese people, wonderful people, they're lovely people, and they make fabulous food. Gee, the food is fantastic. But obviously, the Chinese takeaways were designed by a Scandinavian. Some fella from Norway or Sweden, 6'7", has designed the Chinese takeaway because the counters are about this high. Now, the Chinese people, who are wonderful people, they're not as high as the counters. So you cannot actually see them behind the counter. You could see the tops of their heads. It's like a wig on a pulley going back and forward, like this. But they're there. And the amazing thing about it is that they all look the same. There is an aquarium on the counter. There's a television behind the counter. There's a menu on the wall the size of a cinema screen. And there's always two doors. You ever notice that? Two doors behind the counter. Where you can never see people behind them. There's always a hand comes out like this. And delivers the brown bag. And the hand comes back out again. And they have a great means of communication. They have a great means of communication. Now, they didn't bother to learn the lingo before they came to this country. You know, they don't speak very good English. And usually when you go into a Chinese takeaway, and I go there quite a lot, you're greeted with, "Why you wa?" "Why you wa?" Now, this is supposed to mean hello and welcome. How are you? What would you like? Have a seat while you're waiting. There it is. Good luck, thank you, and save home. That's all covered in "Wa you wa." Now, "Wa you wa," if you are ever greeted in the Chinese takeaway with "Wa you wa," you just say to them, "Why you ga?" And it totally confuses them because they don't know what they got. Somebody else wrote out the menu. Now, "Why you wa" is fine if the customer is sober. If the customer is sober. But you get two fellas in Dublin coming out of the pub. They come out of the bar at about 12:30 at night, and they are full. And they come out of the bar, and they come out like... They're so full, they have their heads in the air in case they spill any. On the way home. And they immediately get the curry feeling. Come here, Mick. We go and we get a takeaway. Chinese takeaway. And it's about to say, okay. So they go along and they arrive at this Chinese takeaway. Hey, we go in here. One hung low. He must have been in the war. And they walk in to the typical Chinese takeaway, as we know them in Ireland. They walk up to the counter, and once they come inside the door, they're greeted with, "Where you are?" I beg your pardon? Why you are? Come here. Who said that? Come here for a minute. Come out here and say it. Now, you just visualize this. Try to imagine this. Now, the pubs have closed, and the whole takeaway, the whole restaurant is filling up, and there are lines, there are queues right behind, everywhere. And the fellow rushes up. Give us can I have chicken and chips twice? I had you first time. Now, what do you want? Give us, I'll have beef curry with no onions. And onion curry with no beef. We don't have that. Well, you had it the last time I was here. There was no beef in the curry I got. You want a beef detector? And meanwhile, just visualize now the whole restaurant is full, and there's a fella coming over. Excuse me, give me a portion of chicken. Asshole! No, the leg. The leg, I don't know the asshole. Now, what do you want? Give us, have you spring roll? Spring roll? Yeah, spring roll. How many spring roll you want? How many have you got? Give us 11. Separate. And I'd also like curry sauce on the side. The queue, though, remember? The lines behind. Visualize this. And there's a fellow rushing up. I'd like a spring roll and a chip. Fuck you! You're talking to me. Fuck you! Don't bleeding start now. How would you like to wake up with a crowd around you? I tell you, fuck you! What's he saying, Jim? He says the far queue. He wants you on the far queue. That's it. Over here. Yeah, I'll tell you far queue. Oh yeah. What does your girlfriend want, Mick? Duck. A duck. Sorry, no duck. 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 Not duck. Duck. We have no duck. But you better find one. We're not leaving without it. We have no duck. How would you like this counter over there in the car park? I told you before we have no duck. You don't see understand, you stupid cockshot. You stupid idiot. You idiot. I give you a simple test to find out you understand what I said. Spelling test.
Spelling? Okay, I'll do the spelling test.
Okay. First of all, take C or chips. What you have?
See our chips? Hips.
Very good. Take R or rice. What you have? Ois. Fake off. Now take F or duck where you hop. There's no F in duck. That's what I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you that several times. No. But I went into my local pub, into the West Wicklow Lounge one day for a pint, you see? And it's a good pint. I don't mind telling you, it's a really good pint. So when I went inside into the lounge, Timmy is behind the counter, and I always get my pint from Tim because it has a great head. So I'm inside in the lounge, and I'm ordering my pint of, beautiful pint of Guinness, and I'm saying to Timmy, could I have a nice pint? And he said, oh, don't talk. Don't talk to me about pint. Get it yourself. So I went around and I pulled a good, solid pint for myself, and I put it on the counter, and I threw a fiver on the counter, and he says, oh, don't bother me with money. Go around to the cash register yourself. So I went around again, and I put the £5 into the till, and I took a good bit of change now. I wasn't going to serve myself for nothing. And he's standing like that, and I says to him, well, Tim, what do you think of that lotto draw over the weekend? Oh, see, don't talk to me about it. £1.5 million, and I had all 6 numbers. I says, are you telling me you won the lotto? Oh, no, see, wait, I said. On Saturday evening, I had a busy morning, and I'm sitting down in the chair, and I have this dream, and there's an Padre Pio come to me in the dream. And he's holding 6 numbers in front of me. I woke up, I wrote the numbers down on the lottery ticket. I give them to the wife. I says, get down quick to the shop. You have 20 minutes to put this on. If she didn't meet Mary O'Neill on the way down. And she stands talking to her for a half an hour. And by the time she gets to the lottery shop, the bloody lottery is finished. And me with 6 numbers. Well, I says, to tell you the truth, Tim, I says, if that happened to me, I'd cut me throat. Why do you think I'm holding me head? There's a great friend of mine, Eddie, and Eddie, talks in his sleep, and God knows there's none of us perfect, we all do something. But isn't he always talking in his sleep? And one night he's in the bed, and he wakes up, and he's kind of going, ooh, ooh, I love you. And the wife wakes up, and she's delighted with herself. She thinks her prayers is answered. And she sneaks out of the bed, and she goes into the bathroom and puts on the 7-Eleven. Puts on all the silk gear. She gets back into the bed, and he's going, ooh, I love you. And she's going, ooh. And he goes, ooh, Susanna, I love you, Susanna. But she's like a devil. Because that wasn't her name at all. And he's going, Susanna, I love you. Well, she is like a devil. The following morning, he comes down for the breakfast, and she gives him the breakfast from about 20 yards. Up, yeah, oh, yes, back, yep. And she lashes the breakfast across the table. There's eggs and rashers stuck to his head and everything. So what's this for? Says, I'll tell you what it's for. This is for Susanna. You big donkey, you. Susanna. Now, who is this Susanna? So what do you mean, Susanna? He said, I don't know who you're talking. She says, Susanna. All night long, all I can hear, Susanna. I love you, Susanna. Oh, see, it's a horse. That's a horse, he says, running in Punchestown in a few weeks' time, and I have to put my money on it. Susanna is the name of the horse. Well, he gets away with it. He goes off to work that morning. And he comes home that evening at 5:30, and every suitcase he ever owned is out in the front garden. All his suits, his cases, everything. The door is locked, and he comes up to the door and he says, for God's sake, woman, he says, what are you doing to me here? He says, what happened? Says she, while you were out, your horse rang. I remember many years ago, my uncle saw an advertisement in the paper that said, drink Canada Dry. And he was gone the next morning. He says, I'll chance this. And while he was in Canada, the funny thing about it was, in those days, you could get work, missus. You know what I'm talking about? You could get plenty of work. So he goes along to a lumber firm. It says, lumberjack required. So he goes along and says, I'm looking for an old job here, lumberjack. Says, sir, he says, do you have any experience filling trees?
Do I what?
So do you have any experience filling trees?
Filling them with what?
No, sir, felling trees, chopping them.
Chopping? Sure, I could chop them down with my teeth.
I had 25 years' experience working in the Sahara forest. Does you mean the Sahara Desert?
See, that's what they call it now.
But my father, Lord rest his soul, he was one of those characters who convinced me that there was always work if you look for it. Am I right or wrong? He told me years and years ago in Ireland, he said he remembered working one time in various jobs. He was all sorts. But he went along to the Post and Telegraph Company in Ireland, which did all the telegraph poles. And he went inside and he says, I'm looking for a job. So the foreman gave him a truck and 20 telegraph poles, and he says, off you go, he says, put them up and you have the job. So my father went out on a Monday morning at 11:30 and didn't come back until Friday evening at 4 o'clock with the truck and 18 poles on the back of it. And the foreman thought he was dead. So where have you been till now? He says, God, he says, you're off with a truck, he said, for the week.
That's why he was just putting up them telegraph poles.
He says, for God's sake, man, he says, how many did you put up?
The 2.
He said, there's men here in this job and they can put down up to 20 telegraph poles in a single day. I said, I know that. But did you see how far up out of the ground they left theirs sticking? Can you visualize that? He went along to a building site one time and he says, I'm looking for a bit of a job. And the foreman says, look, he says, I haven't enough work for the men I have here.
I say, that's okay, I won't work too hard.
So he kind of befriended him. He felt he was a nice man. He says, can you make tea?
Oh, see, no problem.
Good, he says, can you drive a forklift truck?
See, how big is the kettle?
There was a fella one time. This guy, you see, O'Malley was out having a little stroll in County Clare. Beautiful place. Wonderful. Cliffs of Duneen, and he's having a look over the cliffs of Duneen. And as he's looking over, he's fascinated with the steep drop of the cliffs. And he can see seagulls flying below him. This is how deep it is. And a gust of wind comes and blows him off the cliff. And as he's falling, and that's only the half of it. And he grabs on to a branch. He grabs onto a branch on the way down to the cliff. He just grabs on, and he's holding onto this branch for dear life. And he's hanging on there, and he's going, oh, help! Help! Is there anybody up there? Suddenly this voice. This is God speaking. Oh, God. Oh, dear God. Help me. Help. Do you believe in God? Oh, yes, I do. Help me. Let go of the branch. Dublin, of course, is a very wonderful place, and there are so many places to see in Dublin. But one of the great places in Dublin is the zoo, or as we Dubliners call it, the zoo. The zoo. Now, I recently went off on a little family trip, and it was myself and my wife Eileen and our 4 children, and of course, her mother. We bring her everywhere, you know. It was much better than kissing her goodbye. But, and our father, of course, Paddy. Now, Paddy, of course, and Lily is my mother-in-law's name. Now, I have to tell you that in case I refer to her ever again in the show, Lily is her name, although he calls her Treasure. I said, why do you call her Treasure? He says, because everywhere we go, people say, where did you dig her up? But, no, she's not as bad as it sounds. She's not as bad as it sounds. She was up in the house the other day. She had her false teeth in her mouth upside down. She nearly ate the head of herself. But she's a great person. She's lovely. And God love us, but she's huge. Oh, I know I'm no Rolls Royce myself, but she's huge. And of course, Paddy is very thin, you know. He feels very intimidated by her, you see. Because, well, he's not the first husband. Not many people know that. She was married twice before, you know. That's right, and the first 2 fellas died violent deaths. And Paddy doesn't know what kind of a dispatch he's going to get, you know, so he has to be very careful. That's true, she was married, she had 2 previous husbands. The first fella died from eating poisoned mushrooms. The second fella died from a fractured skull. Wouldn't eat the mushrooms, but we went up to the zoo and we had a bloody great time in the zoo. We were up on the zoo, we had such a fantastic day. We had to buy 2 tickets for her, of course, the usual, you know, one to get her in, the other to get her back out. But the rest of us, myself and the wife and Paddy and the 4 children, got in for nothing. We got in free because we ran in backwards. The fella thought we were coming out. And he couldn't see us with her, you see, you know, the usual. But we went along to the monkeys, and as you probably know, the monkeys have very distressing, you know, social habits. You know, and they're not a bit behind the door about what they do and how they do it, or where they do it, and how long it takes to do it. Because there's a lot of monkeys, and they want to make more monkeys. Well, these 2 monkeys, may God forgive us, but the 2 of them are in the middle of the... I never seen anything like it. And they're going... And what a crowd they attracted. There was people everywhere looking at these 2 monkeys in the cage, interfering with each other, to put it mildly. In other words, they were very attached. And the mother-in-law is there and she's holding her skirt out like that to stop people from seeing them. And eventually she calls and says, you, zookeeper, come here. You with the head on you, come over here for a second. Look at the carrying on of these 2. Interfering with each other and they're up and down and across and back. Would you stop them? There's children here who don't even know what they're on about. Well, the zookeeper says, what do you want me to do? She says, stop them now. How am I supposed to stop them? That's only nature. She'd throw them a bun or something. Would you stop for a bun? We went all around the zoo. The polar bear was freezing. But we were going by the gorilla's cage, and I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, the gorilla's cage in Dublin Zoo, and the female gorilla was away from the male gorilla. She was off in the Whipsnade Zoo in London, fostering some new gorilla, and the male gorilla, the daddy gorilla, is on his own, and he's like a devil. Oh, gee, he was there for about 10 weeks on his own. You can imagine yourself, lads. You know? You imagine the way he felt. And he can't get out. Control yourselves up there, please. I mean, he can't get out for a pint. But he's in there, he's sitting down on this pole. It was a horizontal pole, actually. Wasn't a, you know, it wasn't a perpendicular pole. He wouldn't have been sitting down, actually. But anyway, he's sitting down, he has his arms folded, he has the bottom lip up over his eyes. He's like a devil. He's sitting down there and he's not paying any attention to anybody. And there's people throwing bananas and nuts and bars of chocolate and biscuits, everything. And he wasn't paying any attention. So my father-in-law, Paddy, says to Lily, he says, oh, yeah, now, he says, the gorilla doesn't look too happy.
What am I supposed to do about it?
Because you could always cheer him up.
How am I supposed to cheer up a gorilla?
Why doesn't he blow him a kiss? So right enough, she goes, and the gorilla unfolded his arms, the lip came down and he starts blinking. Yeah, now, he says, you have him excited for a start. You got his attention. Now, does he really excite him?
What do you mean, really excite him?
Well, you could always give him a bit of a thrill. Open the 2 top buttons in your blouse and pose at him.
Yes, she'll try it.
So she did. She opened the 2 top buttons in the blouse. Now, I don't want anybody getting upset. You couldn't see anything really. Couldn't even see the leverage. But anyway, she's standing there. And she kind of goes, and the gorilla's down off the pole. There you are now. He says, you have his attention, you have him excited. Why don't you go for the jackpot?
So you mad or what?
So show him your leg. Show him the good leg.
Fair enough.
And she pulled her skirt up to about here. Now, you couldn't see anything. You just see the garter. And she's going to go, woo, and the gorilla goes mad. And everybody's cheering and they're throwing more bananas and they're all cheering. Now, I don't know where Paddy got the strength from, but he grabs a hold of Lily like this. And he grabs her like this. Up, yeah, you. And he fires her in over the cage. And she lands on the flat of her back in front of the gorilla. Ah! And the gorilla's going, and Paddy shouts, now, tell him you have a headache. I recently, ladies and gentlemen, was celebrating a very, very special event. My granny celebrated her 93rd birthday. How about that? 93. God bless her. She's a powerful woman. She never used glasses all her life. Always drank out of the bottle. Always. But at 93 years of age, you can imagine, I mean, she's in the whole of her health. She goes to the doctor the odd time just to see if he's okay. Honest to God. She goes along to the doctor, and she went to the doctor recently, and she says,
I want pill.
says, you want what?
I want the pill.
He says, for God's sake, woman, he says, you must be over 90.
I am, and I want the pill, and I want it now.
So to get rid of her, he gave her the pill. So he hands her the pill,
And she says, I don't want it that way, I want it powdered.
So he crushed it down and he gave it to her in powder form. And she took the pill from him on a spoon. And as she took the pill on the spoon, she emptied the powder onto the back of her hand like this and threw the spoon away, and she goes, He says, for God's sake, woman, he says, why did you do that?
She says, at my age, it's all up in your head.
I bought her a gift for Christmas there recently because she lives alone, my granny, and she's no TV. She doesn't use TV. So I said I'd get her a nice present for Christmas, something different to keep her company. So I decided I'd buy a parrot. Now, I could have went into a pet shop. I could have bought an ordinary parrot. But no, I listened to a friend of mine. He says, why don't you buy a rare pet at an auction? So like a neat idiot, I go along to this auction and I'm bidding for this South American parakeeta. That's the parrot with, with the boot boy hairstyle, you see. And I'm bidding for this parrot for 45 minutes at an auction. I eventually paid £750 for a parrot. Now, I really felt, you know the way you feel after that. I went up to the auctioneer and I says, I hope they got this parrot can talk. He said, who do you think has been bidding against you for the past hour? But I brought the parrot off, I got a cage, and I sent it up to my grandmother on Christmas Eve, would you believe? At 4:30. I didn't say who it was from, I just said, Happy Christmas, Granny. Good luck. And I sent it up to her, I didn't say who it was from, so I didn't call her until the following day. It was Christmas Day, about 4:30 in the evening, and I rang her up and said, well, Granny, what do you think of your present? Oh, Shishi, was it you bought it? I says it was. What did you think of it? Oh, it was delicious, so it was. Tasted anything like it. I said, for God's sake, Granny, you're out there eating a parrot that cost me £750. I said, that parrot could talk in 5 different languages. I said, why didn't he say something when I was looking at... But you try to visualise a woman like this. She goes to a doctor in Dublin. Now, in fairness to everybody, and I don't mean to slight the medical profession, but this doctor, I don't know how he gets away with it. He's certainly gone past the sell-by date, I can tell you. Oh, he was treating a woman in Dublin for 3 years for yellow jaundice before he realised she was Japanese. Can you imagine? And this particular doctor, they say that they bury their mistakes. This doctor, a friend of mine went into him one day, and he went in for a chest x-ray, and the doctor had him out of the x-ray unit and into surgery straight away. 7.5-hour operation for a hole in the heart. And it was only afterwards they realised it was a polo mint in his pyjamas pocket. How do doctors get away with this? He gave a fella 6 months to live. The fella couldn't pay his bill. He gave him another 6 months. I don't know where she gets the strength from. 93 years of age. She walks a half a mile every single morning to get mass. And she stays back after the mass for an hour. She helps to do the flower arranging and everything else. And she's very devoted to Our Lady, indeed, like my own mother. She's dedicated to the Blessed Virgin. And she always prays to Our Lady in the chapel. And every morning she does this. But one morning she came into the chapel and she's kneeling down in front of Our Lady. And there were 2 painters up on the scaffold. And they saw the old lady coming in and they said, let's have a bit of fun with her. Just, for the youth. So one of them shouts down, as she's kneeling down in front of Our Lady, you see, he shouts down, "This is the Lord." She never bat an eyelid. She stayed praying. And he tries, "This is the Lord." Not a move out of her. She kept praying to Our Lady, you see. And the other painter says, "You're not doing it right." I'll try it. "This is the Lord." And she turned around and said, "Would you ever shut up? I'm talking to your mother." Oh, she's a character. And you don't expect this. When it was her 60th wedding anniversary, herself and my grandfather, Lord rest him, he's died since, but when it was her 60th wedding anniversary, the whole family got together and we said, why not give them a treat? 60 years married, and it's a great achievement. And we all got together and we sent them off to this lovely hotel down the south of Ireland, down near County Cork. And we sent them off for the lovely weekend. And it happened to be the hotel, we knew this, of course, that where they'd had their wedding night. It was the old hotel. And when they arrived, the manager of the hotel decided, let's give them the bridal suite, which happened to be the same suite that they had spent their wedding night in. So they were very excited, and they went into the room, and, they were fascinated. Looking around, there was television, and there was electric light in it, and everything else, and the new bedclothes, and everything. It was lovely. It looked fantastic. And the wallpaper was all different, you see, and the soap was the same, but everything else was fine. And they went into this room, and you can imagine they're 60 years married, and she sat down on the bed, and the grandfather sat down on a little chair opposite the bed, and they're looking at each other, and she's kind of going, well, Seamus. Well, Seamus. Do you remember, Seamus? Do you remember, Seamus? The first night we spent in this room?
Oh, yes, I remember it well. I'll never forget it.
Do you remember? We came into this room, and you hardly gave me time to take off me stockings.
Geez, you'd have time to knit yourself a pair now.
Oh, she's bloody gas. She's a character, you know. I mean, 93, you don't expect... I know that today it's modern times, and you don't expect, perhaps, these days, to see someone of a great age like that to be so broad-minded. She actually told us about their honeymoon, and you wouldn't expect to hear it. You wouldn't hear it in an X-rated movie. The things that happened. She says she can remember, and she describes this herself now, 93 years old. She describes it. She says she can remember going into the hotel, and they had the reception. There was only a small crowd at the reception, and she says when everybody was gone, they went up to the honeymoon suite, and she remembers she went in first, and my grandfather came in after her, and he wasn't my grandfather at the time, actually, no. he just got married, so he wasn't my grandfather then, actually. Probably didn't even know he was going to be my grandfather, but he came in. And she says she can remember distinctly what happened. She sat down in front of the dressing table and the mirror, and she was taking off the makeup, you know, the usual, taking off, sorting out the teeth, everything. And she can see through the corner of her eye, she can see your man. And he's over there, and she says she remembered he took off his trousers. She told us this herself. And he rolled them up. And the next minute, she gets this unmerciful clatter across the back of her neck. Up, yeah, by yeah. Bang! And he lashes the trousers across, and he hits her in the back of the head. Now, he forgot to take one of the boots out of the trousers. Well, she got such a terrible clatter. And she says she's sitting in front of this mirror, and the trousers are hanging over her shoulder, and he looks over and says, well, says he, now, woman, oh, says he, get into them now, up ya by ya. Wear them, says he, you devil ya. Wear them now. She says, I'm not wearing those. I am not wearing those trousers under any circumstances.
He says, well, don't you ever forget that now. You remember that. As long as you live.
Well, she's like a devil. And she wasn't letting them away with that. So she goes in to sulk. She goes in to sulk into the bathroom. It was en suite. She goes inside into the bathroom. And she said, she describes this, it was very funny the way she described it. She's in the bathroom and there's water splashing and flushing and slushing and slashing and sploshing and it was like Niagara Falls inside in the bathroom. And all he can hear is water splashing. And after a half an hour, the bathroom door opens and she comes out and she's standing at the bathroom door. A vision in pink and blue. And a gownless evening strap. Strapless evening gown as she's standing there. And it was made of kind of latex, lurex, and while she was standing there, during the time she stood there, a see-through negligee. You could see her Wellingtons underneath it. And she puts her hand into the bath and she draws out this pair of knickers. Now I'm talking about the big heavy drawers, lads. The big double gusset jobs. Interlock. With the elastic in them, you could saddle a horse. And she draws them out of the bath, and there's suds and water, and they're about a ton weight, and she grabs them and says, "Up, you baldy, conscious devil, you." And she lashes them, "Up, you by you." And she fires them across the room, and they go round his neck like for about 10 minutes. Swinging around his neck. He didn't know whether he was being hung or drawn or quartered. And when the knickers eventually came to rest,
She says, "Now," says she, "baldy conscience. Get into those. Get into those knickers now."
he says, "I'm not getting into those knickers."
And she says, "Well, don't you ever forget that." Don't you ever forget that.
Thank you. Right. No, right. I wasn't a very happy child. I didn't like school. I was never happy in school. I wasn't. Because the teacher used to call me names. He used to say, "Listen, stupid." He always called me listen. And I remember coming into the school one day, and the teacher looked at me, and he said, "Butler, why are you late for school?" I said, "Because, so, there was 9 of us in the bed last night." "Yes, and the alarm was only set for 8. Come up here. Get up here immediately. Rasher O'Toole. Spell crayon. What colour? Get up here immediately. Are you trying to make a monkey out of me? No, it wouldn't interfere with nature. Get up. Boy at the back of the classroom. What would you find in ancient Greece? Ancient chips. Come up here immediately. Come here. Stand there. Stand right there. You're just one step from an idiot. Will I move back a bit? Yes, get back there. Now I'm 4 steps from an idiot. Get back there. Roger McCormack, if a dog has puppies and a cat has kittens, what has a squirrel got? Nuts. Why does a squirrel float across the river on its back? To keep his nuts dry. Come up here. Get up here. You little boy here. What is a Hebrew? It's a male tea bag, isn't it? Get up here. I was never a happy child in school. I didn't like that. And I tell you what I never really liked in school. I was never happy. I remember I wrote a poem one day, and it was called Me Mammy. And I won a statue of St. Anthony for this. St. Anthony is the patron saint. If you lose something, he finds it. But when you bring him into your house, it's a different story. Oh, we were finding stuff everywhere. Even stuff that wasn't ours. And then the police found it. That was really it. When me prayers was poorly said, who tucked me in me little bed and smacked me till me bum was red. Me mammy. Who took me from me cozy cot and put me on me ice cold pot and made me wee when I could not. Me mammy. Who would me hair so neatly part and hug me gently to her heart and sometimes squeeze me till I'd... I'll do that one again. Who would me hair so neatly part and hug me gently to her heart and sometimes squeeze me till I'd shout. My mammy. When at night the bed would squeak, I raised my head to have a peek. Who yelled at me to go asleep. No, meow flat. I remember one day, my pal, I'll never forget him, poor Rasher O'Neill. And one night he was in bed and he was kneeling down beside his bed and his daddy was passing by and he heard him saying his prayers. Ah. Poor Rasher was saying his prayers. Ah. And he was kneeling down and he said, God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy, God bless Granny, and God bless Granda, and God help Auntie Mary. And the father heard him. And he couldn't understand why he said, God help Auntie Mary. Following day, didn't Auntie Mary have a heart attack? She was dead. 3 nights afterwards, the father is going by the bedroom and he hears the young fella going, God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy, God bless Granny, and God help Grandad. And just as he said that, there was a thump downstairs. Didn't the grandfather fall over and broke his neck and died? The father couldn't believe it. This child is psychedelic. The following night, the child is going, God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy, and God help Granny. 3 days afterwards, the granny took bad and got very sick, and she died. The father was afraid to go by the bedroom anymore. And one night he hears, God bless Mommy, and God help Daddy. And the father couldn't sleep that night. And the following morning, he went to work at about 10 miles an hour. Afraid something had happened. And he went in and he made sure he didn't do anything strange and he stayed there all day and he didn't eat in case he choked. He didn't go anywhere. He just stayed. And he came home that evening and he was as white as a ghost. And he looks in and the wife was in the kitchen and she says, you look like you've seen a ghost. Oh, see, I'm not having a terrible day in work. He says, you won't believe what happened, he said.
See, you had a terrible day. She should see my day. See, I came down this morning, I opened up the front door, and the milkman was dead on the steps.